Oh, Dan, it's good to see your happy, smiling face. You're a tonic all by yourself. We've been doing, as you know, for getting into the studio in GB News. We do weekly PCR tests, and I've always had negative results. And then a week ago on Wednesday, that would be must have been the 4th. I did my test, sent it off, and on the Thursday evening, I got a positive result back from the lab. And notified everyone and was told to just self-isolate, GB News included. I would say Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it felt a bit rough. And then, thereafter, you just started to improve. Just spent the time sitting about, watching television, drinking lots of fizzy drinks, taking a healthy dose of paracetamol. I had a bout of proper flu in 2018. The sort that just puts your head down on the pillow and you can't move, even if you were offered, a £50 note on the floor beside you, you would just say, no, I'll pass. Well, COVID for me was nothing like that. It was, really? I felt lousy. But a couple of days of rest and the rest of the time I've just been putting in my mandatory self-isolation, which officially passed by Sunday. I was a free citizen again, and I'm just back to normal now.
And you're going to be swimming in natural antibodies, Neil.
Well, I'd always assumed that one day or another I would come across COVID, and I would have my own personal experience of it. We're all unique organisms, and you can't really predict at all how each one of us is going to be affected until the penny drops. So yes, I hope now that's me being through COVID, and if everything they say is right, I should now be coursing with natural immunity or antibodies or whatever, and hopefully the rest of the nation as soon as possible. I just consider that I've now put COVID behind me.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, Neil, we're all going to get this thing. I got it in March 2020. You got it in November 2021. We're all going to get this thing. That's the reality.
I think so.
Virus is virus. There's nothing that we can do about it. And it's glad. I'm glad that your experience of it was not even worse than the flu. But look, I've got to ask you about this bloke, Neil, the First Minister of Wales, right? Because Mark Drakeford just gets worse by the day. And he's caused a lot of controversy, rightly, this weekend after he was spotted dancing maskless at a packed Diwali event, despite the fact he's been telling everyone for months and months and months that we must wear masks indoors and enforcing vaccine passports on his citizens. But look, this is Mark Drakeford when he thinks we're not watching. So there's Drakeford, no mask. That's what he's like when he thinks we're not watching. This is what he has to say when we are watching.
Over the next 3 weeks, we will also extend the COVID pass. We've made COVID passes compulsory in nightclubs and in larger indoor and outdoor events just a fortnight ago, and the implementation so far has gone very successfully. While cases are so high, we will extend their use to theatres, cinemas and concert halls in 2 weeks' time.
Neil, we're wise to these leaders now, aren't we? We know what they're like. We shouldn't trust a word that Drakeford says.
I find it impossible to interpret these images, really. That the footage of him there at that celebration there, he must know, he could see that someone came in and deliberately filmed him. The camera is held aloft, and he must have known in this day and age that those images would find their way out immediately onto social media and the rest. So he can't surely be stupid enough to think that the general public wouldn't get to see him blatantly breaking his own stipulations and his own regulations. Or, as I say, it's hard to interpret. is the message simply going out that I will do what I want to do and you will simply do what I tell you to do? You know, one law for me, one law for the rest of you. So, as I say, it's very difficult to understand how we should read these things. But my own interpretation is that whatever vaccine passports are about, they're not about public health. They're not about any attempt to control the virus, for all the reasons that are so well rehearsed now about the fact that we know, and we're being told by everyone from the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom down, that the vaccines, whatever else they do, they don't stop transmission, and they don't stop you catching it, and they don't stop you passing it on, which means that vaccine passports in a health context are less than useless. There's something else. And so you're left to assume that they're about some other form of control, that the vaccine passports under the guise of public health are just a gateway drug, to give those in authority the opportunity to place us all on some kind of digital identification scheme that could then easily grow arms and legs, up to and including a surveillance system of the kind we've spent a decade fearing in China. How else are we supposed to read the fact that vaccine passports are energetically applied, and yet they obviously aren't for a health context, because there's Mark Drakeford, the man in Wales, making the rules, happily maskless in a crowded space.
Well, of course, because my interpretation, Neil, is that this is a man who has spent the past 18 months desperately and at times, let's be honest, successfully attempting to terrify the Welsh people. Neil, he's not scared. This is not a man who's scared. And he's not a particularly healthy bloke. He was not scared in a large crowd of people. So if he's not scared, why is he trying to infuse fear into his population?
Well, frightened populations are easier to control and easier to manipulate. If people are frightened and then those in positions of authority and supposedly in positions of respect, what they say, people will instinctively follow in hopes of freeing themselves from the fear and being led to safety. So they're exploiting, those in power are exploiting a situation. I have to say that as part of my COVID experience, I was contacted by Track and Trace, and I had an interview that lasted about an hour and a half, where there was a painstaking attempt made to reconstruct my timeline. I felt like I was like some sort of international criminal. And they were trying to forensically piece together every single person that I had been within, 6 inches or 6 feet of in the last. It was painstaking, and as I say, it took forever. But afterwards, that was the initial contact, and then my phone pinged incessantly with one message after another, offering me all kinds of help, support, information, access to services. Did I need this? Did I need that? Did I need food delivered? Did I need all the rest of it? And you become aware of the fact that a whole industry has grown around.
Oh, absolutely. And they don't want this industry to come to an end. No, well, Neil Oliver.
People out there making fortunes, or at the very least making very good livings from it. And you have to ask yourself, why would anybody throttle the goose that lays the golden egg?
Totally. Well, Neil Oliver, I'm very glad that your isolation period has come to an end, because we've missed your sage wisdom.
I've missed you too.
Of course, you will be back on the sofa, 7 o'clock, Saturday night here on GB News. Neil, we'll speak again next week. Thank you. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.